In this video, I am going to discuss Transfer of Properties Act 1882. This entire act, Transfer of Properties Act, is mainly relates to immovable properties. For movable properties, another act is there, that is called Sales of Goods Act. But here, for in relation to immovable property, this act has been enacted. All sorts of transactions in relation to immovable properties are enumerated systematically in this act. So, section 5 stipulates that under this TP Act, any act by which a living person conveys property in present or in future to one or more living person to transfer the property from one person to another. That is the main essence of this Transfer of Property Act. That means one living person will transfer the property to another person, living person, and the method in different types of conveyance, different like sale, gift, transfer, any sort of all the different methods are there. So the transfers are taken effect accordingly. So one living person conveys the property to another person. So that is the mode of transfer under this section 5 of this act. Now we will discuss what may be transferred, that is enumerated under section 6 of the act. What are the properties that can be transferred? Property of any kind can be transferred except an easement cannot be transferred apart from the dominant heritage. That means a easement, any property that is under easement, that cannot be transferred except the dominant heritage. This is one exception. Secondly, interest in property restricted to owner's enjoyment, or any sort of any interest that is the owner is having, that cannot be transferred. And thirdly, a right to future maintenance. That means any maintenance a person is entitled as a future maintenance, that cannot be transferred. Apart from these, all these three things, any other property can be transferred under this section 6 of this act. That's why there are three restrictions. This is future maintenance, easement, and any interest of property restricted to owner's enjoyment. So these are certain restrictions given under section 6. Now we will discuss who are the persons competent under this act to transfer. Section 7 stipulates that who are the competent person to transfer. Any person competent to contract, whatever the rules and regulations are enshrined under section Indian Contract Act, any person competent to contract, that means a major can contract. A major and a sound body person can also make a contract. Similarly, under this section 7 of this act, any person competent to contract, entitled to transfer or authorized to dispose the transferable property not his own. That means any person who is not even the owner of the property, by virtue of any power of attorney also he can transfer. That means a person who owns the property he can transfer, or any person, authorized person, that means a power of attorney holder who is acting like a agent of that person, can also transfer. So these are two categories of persons, they are entitled to transfer under as stipulated under section 7 of this act. Now we will discuss some important aspect of relating to ostensible transfer. That means ostensible transfer means any sort of transaction where the identity of the real transferor is not coming into picture. You must have heard the term Benami transaction. In case of Benami transaction, the person who is buying, he is not buying in his own name, he is buying in the disguise of his name through some other person. Those type of transactions are called Benami transactions. At that time, that person is called Benami Dar. So once there is a involvement of Benami transaction, so that type of transaction by suppressing the real identity of the true owner of the property, some other person acting like a dummy or acting like a agent, so that type of transfer is called ostensible transfer. So here, where with the consent of express or implied consent, the person interested in immovable property, a person is ostensible owner of the same such property, and he transfers the same in consideration of transfer, shall not be voidable. That means it shall not be voidable even though the ostensible transfer is made by the ostensible owner. So that is otherwise called Benami transaction. That is not declared as voidable. So that is stipulated under section 41. That means ostensible owner also can transfer the property under this Transfer of Property Act. Now we will discuss some of the transfer by co-owners, that is stipulated under section 44 of this act. Suppose in one property two persons are there, they are co-owners. Without the consent of one co-owner, a transfer cannot be made. If the consent is given by the co-owner, it can be transferred by the other owner who is owning the property. So a co-owner can transfer the property subject to the consent given by the other owner. So if there is valid consent from the other owner, the other person who has obtained the consent of the other owner, he can dispose the property or he can transfer the property under this TP Act, that is given under stipulated under section 44 of this Act. Now we will discuss transfer of property extending suit of relating to thereto. That means suppose a suit is pending, that is given under section 52 of this Act, that is called lis pendens, the cases of lis pendens. When a dispute is pending in any court of law, at that time whatever the transfer that is made, that is governing under this section 52 of this Act. It is otherwise called lis pendens cases. Transfer of property under dispute in a suit pending is hit by principle of lis pendens, so long as the suit is not finally disposed of. That means so long as the suit is not disposed of, the principle of lis pendens will attract and it will hit lis pendens. That means the person is not authorized under law to sell the or to dispose the property when the property dispute relating to properties is still exist in the court of law, that is attracting section 52. But the principle of lis pendens is based on certain things. First of all, the principle of lis pendens in section 52 is applicable to suit seeking relief under section 4 of the Partition Act, and lis pendens is also applicable to suit for specific performance of contract. So two things will be taken into consideration while deciding a case when the suit is sub judice before the court of. For specific performance of contract, lis pendens is very important, and for any suit that is attracting section 4 of Partition Act, so this principle of lis pendens is also applied to a suit. So these are some of the important aspects of lis pendens that is given under section 52, where the transaction is done by a benamidar or benami transaction is made. So these are all relating to benami transaction that is given under section 52 of the Act. Then we will discuss a very important aspect, any sort of fraudulent transfer. So that is enumerated in section 53. Every transfer of immovable property made to defeat the provision of law or to defeat the or sustaining any loss to the creditor shall be voidable at the option of any creditor so who has been defeated or delayed. That means any person who has been cheated or defrauded by the action of one person, any sort of fraudulent transfer is made. So in that case, the entire transaction will be declared as voidable. It is not a void transaction. It is voidable at the option of the party who has put into loss or who has sustained loss. That means the creditor who has put into loss, he can declare the transaction to be voidable under this Act, that is called fraudulent transfer. So these are some of the basic elements of the Transfer of Properties Act. Now we will come back to certain transactions, certain conveyance. So first of all, first conveyance is section 54 of the Act, that is called sale. What is called sale? That is defined under section 54. Sale is transfer of ownership in exchange of price paid or promised to be paid or partly promised. So that price is called consideration. Once a consideration is paid, the sale is coupled and sale is completed coupled with delivery of possession. Once the promise is made and the consideration price is received by the seller from the purchaser and the property is delivered, it will be presumed that the complete sale transaction has been made. So transfer of immovable property value where exceeds 100 rupees, compulsory registration is required. That must be done, the sale deed must be done through a registered instrument. Where the property valuation is less than 100 rupees, sale registration of sale is not required. That is not necessary. But once the property is exceeding 100 rupees valuation, so sale is compulsory under this section 54 of the Act. And sometimes contract of sale between two parties. On execution of this registered document, ownership, title and all these things are passes from the seller to the purchaser. Once the sale is completed, it is the incumbent duty of seller to hand over all the documents relating to sale. And once all these documents are handed over to purchaser, the sale, and after receipt of this consideration coupled with the delivery of possession, the entire sale transaction is completed. So this is the in gist under section 54 of this Act regarding that defined sale. So consideration is prime factor and delivery of possession of the property, that these two constitute valid sale. So another thing is there, agreement to sell. So when this consideration has been partly paid and promised to be paid in future and transaction has not completed, that type of transaction is called agreement to sell. So there is basic difference between sale and agreement to sell. In case of sale, instantaneously the entire property is shifted or transferred from seller to purchaser. But in case of agreement to sell, the thing will continue and it will be finished at the last installment when the money will be paid. So the transaction will be made in future. So it is a executed documents. In case of sale, whatever the document that is created or prepared, it is a executed. But in case of this agreement to sell, it is not executed because the transaction will continue. It is called executory document. So these are basic difference relating to sale and agreement to sell. And all these things are defined under section 54 of this TP Act. Now we will discuss some of the important rights and liabilities of seller and purchaser that is enumerated in section 55. Certain once there is a sale is going to be transaction, there are certain rights and liabilities that is both are coexistence in the sale deed. That means what are the rights that is given to the seller and purchaser. So certain rights like once the person is going to sell, he must disclose the everything of the material to the purchaser. He must not hide anything. If there is income, any shortfall is there, that must be disclosed by the seller to the purchaser. So these are some of the things that are the liabilities of the seller, and the rights also. So the purchaser also accrues certain right. Once the purchaser is going to sell, he can inspect, he can examine, he can ask for, or he can pay for payment of some money, and some money will be paid in future. All these transactions are done through the purchaser. So certain rights, when right is there, definitely liability is there. So rights and liabilities, all these things are for these two parties, seller as well as purchaser, that is specifically mentioned in section 58. Now we will come to another very important chapter relating to aspect law relating to mortgage, that is given under section 58. Mortgage means, what is the meaning of the term mortgage? That means transfer of interest in a specific immovable property for the purpose of securing money advance. Once a person has advanced some money, he has to mortgage some property in lieu of the advancing of money. So that transfer of interest, in case of mortgage, ownership does not transfer, only the interest portion. That means the mortgager shall give the property in mortgage to the mortgagee, the other side. So the mortgagee shall use the property, and whatever the interest that will be derived from that, so he will enjoy that interest. So it is a kind of transfer of interest of specific immovable property, that is called mortgage. So mortgage of different types, simple mortgage, usufructory mortgage, English mortgage, mortgage by deposit of title deeds, that anomalous mortgage, and mortgage by conditional sale. Many types of mortgages are 5 to 6 types are there. So the general principles of mortgage, that is called simple mortgage. In case of English mortgage, the property will deemed to be having sold, and once the money is repaid, again the sale deed is taken back. That is called English mortgage. And this anomalous mortgage is also one kind of mortgage. There's some anomaly is there, some there, then automatically the sale will be treated as void. Then a mortgage by conditional sale. At the time of this mortgaging of property, a conditional sale will be there, it will be sold. Again, when the property is paid or the money is repaid, at that time again this sale deed will be withdrawn or sale deed will be cancelled. This is called mortgage by conditional sale. And mortgage by submitting title deeds. Sometimes while availing loan from different banks or financial institutions, some property like their record of right or any other document, valuable document in relation to that document, in relation to ownership of the document, are mortgaged with the bank or institution of financial, where finance is being taken. At the time they used to mortgage the document, that is called mortgage by submission of title deeds. Title deeds like that is record of right or any other valuable document in relation to the ownership of the document. So all these are different types of mortgage. These are specifically discussed under section 58 of this Act. So this Act is specifically given different types of mortgage, and all these things only the mortgagee can use the property, and for the transfer of interest, for interest he can enjoy the property. That is the given under stipulation. Now we will discuss some of the important rights of mortgager and mortgager to redeem his property under section 60 of this Act. Once whatever the money that has been taken or that is due money that has been paid, it is the mortgagor has got special right to redeem the mortgage. That means redeem means to cancellation of mortgage. That means whatever once the money is paid, the mortgage become not infructuous. So at that time, the mortgagor has got right under this to redeem his property. So any mortgagor has a right to redeem the property on payment of the mortgage and is required to deliver the property. Once the property mortgage money is redeemed or paid, at that time it is the duty of the mortgagee to return the property to the mortgagor. So these are some of the rights stipulated under section 60 of this act, that is called mortgage of this right of mortgagor to redeem the property. Now we will discuss another aspect that is called lease. So that is enumerated on section 105, that is called lease is a transfer of immovable property and the right to enjoy such property made for a certain period in consideration of price paid or promise. Once a price is paid or it is promised to be paid, then only the lease is definitely it is a transfer of right to enjoy. That means so it is called lease. That means somebody is taking a premises on lease for certain years, 2 years, 5 years. So at that time he will enjoy the property, he will use the property by paying certain premium or paying certain rent. So premium, rent, these are some of the words that is used in case of lease. Definitely the lease is related to any premises taken on for a longer basis. It is distinguishable with the tenancy. Tenancy is for a very short period, that is limited to confining to 11 months of tenancy, but in case of lease it is more than 11 months and it is confined to different types of lease for different types of years, 2 years, 5 years, like this, 10 years for doing any business for permanent lease. So lease, in case of lease, only transfer of a right to enjoy, that much is there by payment of certain premium, whatever that is fixed. So that is called price paid or it is promised to be paid. So here parties are involved, two parties are lessor and lessee, and whatever the payment that is done, that price is paid, that is called premium. Whatever the money that is paid by the lessee, so that is called premium. And whatever the, suppose in case of hiring a house on rent, so on rental basis, that whatever the money that is paid, that is rental or rent. So in case of rent, the money, share, service, all these are considered to be rent in case of lease. But in case of this premium, it is considered in aspect of only price. So these are some of the important aspect of, suppose a lease, a person has taken lease for 5 years. So document is compulsorily registrable. Once a person is taking a lease for 5 years, the document needs registration. It must be compulsorily registrable as given by different high courts. So lease means transfer of interest in property only, that much. So certain interest, that is whatever a loan is given or some money has been taken by somebody, that's why a lease is given, or some premium he is going to pay, that's why for paying certain premium a interest has been given. So that type of interest created under this lease. So these are some of the important aspect of lease. Now we will come across a very important section relating to the duration of lease, that is explained in section 106. In case of a lease of any immovable property for agriculture purpose or for any other purpose, where it is for 10 years or more, in that case at least a notice period is 6 months. For revocation or for withdrawal from the lease, if it is lease for 10 years or more, 6 months prior notice from either side, either the lessor or lessee, that is necessary, mandate under section 6. And if that is lease for a small period other than the agriculture purpose, and the lease is from month to month basis, termination can be done by the lessor or lessee on a 15 days prior notice. So this is called notice period. 15 days is prescribed where it is not meant for agricultural purpose. All these things are specifically mentioned under section 106 of this act, and any notice sent under this notice that is called this notice under section 106 of TP Act. So these are some of the important aspect of this notice under this chapter 106 of this transfer of property. Now we will come across different rights and liability that is given to the lessor and lessee. All these things are given under section 108 of the. Once the lessor is going to do the lease, he has to disclose everything, the plus points, the minus points, everything that must be disclosed to the lessee. So all the provisions, any shortfalls or any problem is there in relation to any building or any tenement, that must be disclosed to the lessee. Similarly, the lessee must also, in compliance to the term and condition of the lease deed, he must comply the same, and accordingly he has to continue with the lease as per the term and condition stipulated under this act, under this agreement. So these lessor and lessee both are having certain liabilities and rights towards each other that had been clearly mentioned under section 108 of this act. Now we'll discuss another aspect of this Transfer of Property Act, that is called gift. That is explained in section 122 of this act. Transfer of certain existing movable or immovable property made voluntarily without consideration by the donor to the donee, and which will be accepted by the donee or any person on behalf of the donee, and the acceptance must be made during the lifetime of the donor while he is still capable of giving the property on gift. So certain provisions are there. That means the donee must be having capacity to receive the same, and the donor must be also having capacity to give the property on gift, and the property is given by the donor to the donee without any consideration. Out of natural love and affection or for any other reason, a gift can be made. So the gift is just like a sale, and the whatever the duty chargeable under the sale, that is also applicable to gift. And in case of gift, some important aspect in law, that means the property must be transferred voluntarily without any pressure or without any coercion, and the donor must be having capacity to deal the same. And similarly, the donee must be during his lifetime, his or her lifetime, he must accept the property. Then the entire compliance of this gift is completed. So in case of gift, these three things will be taken into consideration: free consent of mind of the donor. Second, the donor must be having capacity to give the property on gift. And thirdly, the donee during the lifetime of her or his, he will accept the property from the donor. If these things are compliant without any consideration or without money involved, then it is clean case of gift. And so certain things are important related to gift. First, cancellation of gift deed by the donor would not operate as revocation of gift. Once a gift is made, it is made for absolute. Once subsequently any revocation of this gift is made, it cannot be absolute. That means revocation normally cannot be made once the property is given on gift. Second aspect is delivery and acceptance of gifted property is very much essential, otherwise it would be treated as a license. There is a difference between gift and license. Once the delivery is and accepted by the donee, then only it will be treated as a gift. Otherwise, if it has not been accepted by the donee, it is simply just like a transaction of license. So there is a basic difference between gift and license. So the donee must receive the property with full consent and full having capacity to receive the time, provided during his or her lifetime. So this is in relations to the term gift. So gift is completely different from sale. In case of sale, the consideration of money is involved and immediate the property is transferred. But in case of gift, then it will be transferred instantly, no doubt, but sometimes. But here the consideration is totally absent, provided the donee must have capacity to receive the same, and similarly it coupled with the free consent of the donor is also required. Sometimes there is another thing, deathbed gift. In case of this deathbed gift also, when a person is going to die, he can make out a gift, but that gift will be only effective, it is just like a will. In case of that deathbed gift, the gift will be applicable, that will come into existence only after the demise of that person who is executed. So that deathbed gift is completely different from this gift, but of course that is also called deathbed gift. Of course, that deathbed gift is applicable only after the demise of the person who has executed that document during his deathbed. So it is just like you can say that deathbed gift is almost equivalent to will. So these are some of the important aspects of this term gift. And lastly, we will come to another chapter that is called exchange, that is enumerated in section 118. When two persons mutually transfer some property from one thing from the ownership of one person to another, that is called exchange. Suppose a person is transferring a property situated in one place to property to another person whose property is situated in different place. So that person will give his property to this man, and this man will give the property to the other person. This is a case of transfer. So here the process of completed just in manner in whatever the sale, just like all the procedures of sales are also complied, all the provisions of sale. So transfer and sale are almost equivalent. here the consideration, whatever the fluctuation, whatever the differential price, that will be paid only. So it is a case of exchange. So these are in details of this Transfer of Properties Act 1882.